Welcome to the HFY Tales channel. Remember to like and subscribe if you like the story. Enjoy and take care.
The cliffs loomed like ancient sentinels over the ferocious sea, gray waves crashing against jagged rocks, sending clouds of salt spray into the air. Above, ominous black ravens circled lazily, their cries echoing through the shivering breeze, foretelling the darkness that would soon unfurl. It was a grim place, steeped in legends of sorrow and vengeance, where the collision of two worlds sent ripples of despair through both realms. Ilara perched on the edge of that precipice, her heart racing in her chest as she scanned the horizon for signs of movement. The whisper of the wind carried tales of the ethery, mysterious beings who glowed with bioluminescence and wielded empathic powers that unsettled the heart of humanity. Tales wrought with fear, hatreds born from misunderstanding, and blood drenched in conflict. Ilara loathed those stories, for she had witnessed the devastation from both sides, the rage of humanity and the pained cries of the ethery. For too long, the ignorant sought to chain their fates, believing that extinction could snuff out the light of the alien race, whose very existence offered understandings not yet grasped. Through the dense mist, she glimpsed movement, the flickering luminescent form of Korra, the ethery female who had been captured. Millennia of history seemed to hang in the balance, as the ethery had long been thought of as foes. Yet Ilara saw potential in their shared humanity, both revered and feared by each other for their passion and depth. Korra, shimmering with hues of blue and green, was shackled to the cliffside, wisps of her radiance dimmed under the weight of her chains, the black feathers of the circling ravens pecking hungrily at her. She had been bound here, a sacrificial offering to appease the fearsome tribes of humans who lived along the shores, convinced that death would cleanse their sins against the alien race. Ilara's heart ached at the sight. She could not stand by and watch the rituals of cruelty play out any longer. "Is this what we've become?" she murmured, mostly to herself. "Monsters." Drawing upon her training as a ranger, her skill in stealth and nature, Ilara moved silently toward Korra. She could feel the weight of every step, every heartbeat, creating a tension that intertwined with anxiety and resolve. As she approached, the fierce crows filled the air with their terrible cawing, and she could see the desperation dancing in Korra's luminescent eyes. "Please." The ethery's voice was both a whisper and a song, shimmering with pain but thick with emotion. "You must let them take me. It's the way of our people." "Not today," Ilara replied, determination igniting within her. "Your people deserve better than this." The two worlds collided in that moment, not just as human and alien, but as two souls intertwined by destiny. Ilara reached out, fingers brushing Korra's glowing skin. Their connection sparked like wildfire, igniting the fragile hope that lay buried beneath centuries of contempt. Ilara's heart pounded like a war drum as she stared into Korra's glowing eyes, their depths full of fear and defiance. She could no longer remain a passive witness to the unfolding tragedy. The ties of human justice were suffocating, and Ilara's own conscience clamored for action. "Your people don't deserve this," Ilara repeated, her voice firm and unwavering, despite the chaos swirling around them. The air crackled with anticipation, and the ravens' raucous cries faded into a distant murmur. As she approached the chains binding Korra to the cliff, the weight of history bore down upon them. She fished out her dagger, a well-worn tool that had seen battles and nourished survival instincts. "I will set you free." Korra recoiled slightly, her eyes widening, flickering with surprise. "No, you have no idea what will happen if you interfere." Her voice trembled, a melody thrumming with warnings and unspoken fears. "The humans will see you as a traitor. They will." "Let them see," Ilara interrupted, resolute. "I can't watch another innocent life being condemned while we stand paralyzed by traditions that only breed hatred." With every slice of her dagger, Ilara wrestled with both the chains and her own heart. The clicking steel echoed in the wild winds, and she felt the gaze of the watching ravens like a judgment of fate. "I will not forsake you," she promised, the final chain falling to the rocky ground at her feet. Korra was free but vulnerable, and Ilara was struck by the realization that the battle ahead was just beginning. Korra stepped back, gazing in disbelief. Why would you risk your safety for me? Because I believe we can change what's been written, Elara replied, extending a hand. I believe in a world where we coexist. Cora hesitated, but the flicker of hope ignited a spark in her essence. She moved closer, her hand brushing against Elara's, each pulse resonating with newfound strength. Then let's change it together. Before they could catch their breath, a guttural roar pierced the air. Captain Rian, the hardened leader of the human guard and a figure steeped in the blood of battles, emerged from the thicket, flanked by his armed men. His eyes seethed with rage, reflecting a lifetime spent fighting the Aethery, convinced that mercy was a folly reserved for the weak. Elara, he bellowed, voice dripping with disdain. You dare to betray your kind? That creature will bring nothing but ruin to our people. Cora instinctively flared her luminescence, baring her teeth in response, a visceral action born from years of oppression. Elara sensed her rising intensity and gripped Cora's hand tighter as fear surged through her veins. Stand back, Rian commanded, raising his weapon. You are both under arrest for treason against mankind. Shadows shifted around them as the other guards closed in, but Elara felt a tremor of something more powerful than fear, a surge of defiance coursing through her. We are not your enemies, she shouted, unwilling to back away. Your ideology blinds you. Cora is not a monster. She is a victim of our hatred, just as we are victims of our fear. Rian's eyes narrowed, and he pointed his weapon directly at Cora. Monsters breed monsters. You believe your foolishness will save you from the wrath of our people? They will never accept her. As Elara's heart pounded and time slowed, the ravens circled with a mournful cry. This moment would either shatter their fragile alliance or ignite a spark that could illuminate the darkness. Cora's essence brightened brightly in response to the looming threat, her empathic energy interfacing with Elara's resolve. Friendship can conquer fear, she asserted, taking a step forward. Together, we can show your people that love transcends the boundaries you place. Rian scoffed, but uncertainty flickered across his face. Foolish girl, you will pay dearly for this folly. Elara stepped in front of Cora, determination propelling her forward. She would not let fear dictate their future any longer. I'd rather fight for the future I believe in than live shackled to the past. You will see. Without a second thought, she reached for the dagger at her side and hurled it into the air. It landed with a thud, embedding itself into the ground, a symbol of defiance, a call to arms. In that crucial moment, a collective gasp echoed through the ranks of surprised guards. They shifted uneasily, uncertain. Perhaps there was another path, one that eluded the shadows of their hatred. Let's show them, Elara whispered to Cora, her heart igniting with purpose and hope. Together, they readied themselves, prepared to redefine their realities amidst the chaos of looming conflict. The world around Elara and Cora erupted into chaos as tensions mounted. Rian's men hesitated, their training clashing with the unprecedented sight before them, two beings standing as one against a backdrop of long-held enmity. We're not your enemies, Elara shouted again, her voice cutting through the thick air, infusing it with a fervor she didn't know she possessed. Cora steadied herself beside Elara, the energy crackling between them, electric and undeniable. With an uncharacteristic blend of bravery and serenity, she lifted her hands, and a soft light enveloped her, a protective aura seeping out toward Rian and his men. Do not fear me, Cora urged, tapping into the empathic bond that transcended spoken language. I mean no harm. We are so much more than this conflict. We can be allies. For a heartbeat, it seemed the tide might break. Rian's men exchanged confused glances, their weapons held hesitantly. However, the captain's anger boiled over, and he snarled, "Seize them, in the name of humanity." The sounds of steel clashing against the ground echoed as the humans advanced. Elara grabbed Cora's hand tighter. We have to run. Without a moment's hesitation, they plunged into the nearby woods, surrounded by towering trees and dense underbrush. The essence of the forest enveloped them, a sanctuary amidst the chaos of a world on the brink of destruction. The air was thick with the sense of moss and damp earth, and for a fleeting moment away from the battlefield, Elara could almost forget the horror that spread like wildfire behind them. Together, they cast fear aside, relying on the thrill of survival to keep them going. Over there, Ilara pointed to a narrow path winding through thick trees. We can lose them in the thicket. Let's hope they can be persuaded, Cora replied, a tautness woven into her words. I can sense their anger. I can feel their fear for what they do not understand. As they fled deeper into the woods, the sound of footsteps grew fainter, but their pursuers remained hot on their trail. Ilara's heart raced as they dodged low branches and thick undergrowth, the need for eluding capture sharpening every instinct within her. At last, they stumbled upon a clearing with a bubbling brook in the center. Breathing heavily, Ilara sank to her knees as the refreshing chill of the water washed over her. Cora knelt beside her, shimmering softly with an iridescent glow, casting faint colors that painted the forest around them. What now? Ilara panted, glancing around anxiously. Cora shared a quiet moment of introspection, the weight of the universe upon her. First, we must understand each other. Her voice was calm amidst the tumult. I sense pain within you, a fear that runs deeper than even the conflict between our people. Ilara looked into Cora's luminous eyes, vulnerability laid bare. I've seen the devastation caused by this war. Friends turned against one another, lives lost, families shattered. I am afraid we may never see peace. The Aetheri nodded, absorbing Ilara's anguish. The root of our conflict lies in our fears and prejudices. But together, we can transcend that struggle. We can create a bridge. Then we must act quickly, Ilara declared, determination taking root within her. I won't let my people continue to chase shadows. We need to show them that coexistence is possible. But to do that, we need to make a plan. They worked until dusk, knitting ideas of harmony from shared fears, the air around them humming with what would have been impossible just hours before. As they forged their alliance, their differences melted away, replaced by laughter, stories, and the forging of bonds that neither had expected. A sense of safety and understanding enveloped them. Cora shared tales of her people's reverence for life, their connections woven through emotion rather than domination. Meanwhile, Ilara revealed her past, struggles too familiar to be shared only with friends, and how she had refused to partake in the hatred around her. As night descended, the stars twinkled overhead like distant lanterns. Cora's essence glowed softly, illuminating the warm space surrounding them. Ilara, you've given me hope, a rare gift, she said, her voice low and intimate. The shift in their dynamic rippled through Ilara's heart, igniting flames of connection. And you've given me understanding, she replied, feeling courage laced with something deeper, more profound than kinship. But just as they felt the weight of their connection, a rustling in the bushes shattered the tranquility like glass breaking. Moments later, a figure leaped into the clearing, one of Rian's guards, breathless and furious. Cursed traitors, he spat, lunging at them. In a heartbeat, Ilara and Cora twinned their movements, instinctively positioning themselves back to back, sharing energy as they prepared to fight together. I can distract him, Cora whispered, her glow intensifying, vibrant and mesmerizing. And I'll take him down, Ilara replied, summoning her dagger with a surge of purpose. The guard staggered, mesmerized by Cora's radiance, but before he could speculate, Ilara lunged forward. She ducked low, rolling toward their attacker, and kicked out at his knees. He fell, crashing to the ground. Run, Ilara shouted, and Cora followed, her bioluminescence illuminating the path like a beacon of hope amidst the oppressive darkness. The chase renewed, but bravado surged within them, guiding their feet as they ventured deeper into the forest, each step taken with the bond of their fighting spirits, forging ever closer, challenging the cold fingers of fate together. Yet in the back of Ilara's mind, the unrelenting thoughts of the humans' prejudice loomed. Would they truly change the course of their people's existence, or would it all be for naught? The answer lay ahead, woven between the trunks of ancient trees, the future uncertain, but the warmth of their connection growing brighter with every heartbeat they now shared. The following days turned into a blur of adrenaline and fervor. Ilara and Cora moved from shelter to shelter, seeking the support of those who had begun to question the long-standing hatred between their peoples. Their words, buoyed by shared experiences, ignited flickers of hope in the hearts of sympathetic souls. Even in the shadows of their precarious existence, they carved a path toward understanding. Yet the clock was ticking. News of a planned assault on the E3 villages reached Alara's ears, a retaliatory strike orchestrated by Captain Rian, spiraling racial tensions into turbulence. With no time to lose, they devised a plan to confront him and halt the impending slaughter. It was dusk as they approached the clearing on the coastline where Rian had called forth his troops. The sky swirled with rich hues of orange and violet, setting a stark contrast to the grim realization of what lay ahead. "Alara," Cora said quietly, glancing at her. "If we're to face him, we must unite our strengths. I sense his anger and bitterness intensifying. He is consumed by rage against me." "I'll stand beside you," Alara replied, clutching Cora's hand, a simple detachment of warmth that sparked courage into her heart. "We will show him that love, understanding, and hope can wield more power than hatred." As they emerged into the clearing, Rian stood before a gathered assembly of men and women, his military bearing underscored by an air of dominance. The remnants of loyalty lingered in the crowd, yet skepticism clouded their faces, fueled by a persistent distrust of the E3. "Brothers and sisters," Rian called out, his voice booming, "we gather here to avenge the insult placed upon our people. We will cleanse our shores of the E3 filth." The roar of approval that erupted from the crowd wove itself into a menacing chant, cold and filled with malice. But Alara and Cora stood undeterred, holding hands tightly before advancing into the commotion, standing as the embodiment of defiance. "Stop!" Alara shouted, her voice steady amidst the chaos. The mob turned to witness the two figures, Cora aflame with glowing bioluminescence that painted the scene in ethereal light, a stark contrast to the darkness of hate swirling among the humans. "Turn back, Alara. You are a fool," Rian hissed, eyes narrowing in hatred. "You choose to protect the very thing that threatens our way of life." Cora stepped forward, her presence calming like fresh rain. "I am not your enemy, Rian. I am Cora of the Aethery, like you. I wish to live, to love, and know peace." Laughter erupted from the crowd, igniting Rian's fury. "Peace? You've been the harbingers of death ever since you landed here. Do you truly think we'll accept you?" "Think," Ilara urged, stepping between them, her breath shallow but focused. "You speak of death, yet don't see the blood on your own hands. This violence will only beget more violence." "Enough," Rian bellowed, cutting her off. "Your idealism is a crutch. My people demand justice." Cora raised her hands with grace, summoning her essence, inviting the group to see beyond their hatred. "What if we could build something beautiful from our suffering, by coming together, not apart?" Distrust flickered in the crowd. Their gazes shifted as uncertainty set in. Rian clenched his jaw, anger pulsing off him like heat from flames. "You dare preach about unity after what you've done?" "Here," Ilara shouted, her voice filled with determination, heart racing. "We are not here to condemn, but to bridge the divide. Let us show you the truth of the Aethery. Let each of you see my strength, my conviction." With that, she turned toward Cora, the bond they had woven through shared experiences and risk amplifying their resolve. Together, they summoned the energy of compassion, entwining their essences in a swirling display of light. Ilara held Cora's gaze, and the energy between them sparked like fireworks in the night sky, captivating the crowd that watched with bated breath. "Witness this passion," Cora urged, increasing the intensity of their bond. "Our strength knows no bounds when combined in unity. Love empowers, and it can heal our past wounds." Rian's heart wavered, seeing the radiance illuminating the clearing, a testament to their authenticity. "Yet, fear not at him. This will not hold," he spat, anger bubbling. "You cannot forsake our history, our pain." Ilara stepped closer, her voice almost a whisper. "No one is forsaking anything. We are learning from it. We must let go of the past that chained us to bitterness." "Do you truly believe we can change?" one of the soldiers asked, hesitant, eyes flickering with doubt. Murmurs of agreement rippled through others gathered, questioning Rian's iron grip on their trust. Yes, Cora replied, taking a bold step forward. Together, we can write a new story, one filled with shared ambitions, love, and understanding. I know what it's like to be vilified for being different, but differences can be our greatest strength. Rian staggered, wrestling with the contrasting emotions, fighting for dominance. Your words may charm the weak-hearted, but my people. What are you afraid of? Ilara interrupted, her voice fierce yet inviting. Of being wrong. Of losing what you've built in fear? We can transcend this fear together. You, Rian, have a choice. For a moment, silence enveloped the crowd as the tension shifted. Would they listen? Hope surged within Ilara and Cora, a shared heartbeat in this moment of existence, where they could be the beacon in approaching storm clouds. Will you choose the path of destruction or the path of cooperation? Ilara added, her heart pounding louder than the war drums that haunted their past. At last, Rian's fierce gaze softened, uncertainty flickering across his features. He raised a hand, trembling, as murmurs coursed through the crowd. Some embraced the vision Ilara and Cora painted, while others remained shackled by fear. But they stood together, defiantly pushing against the current, trusting in the vision of what could be. The future can be ours, whether we fight or embrace it. Ilara whispered, reaching out toward Rian. What will it be? Cora's luminous glow dimmed and intensified, like a flickering candle revealing the darkness around them. In the heart of that moment, the balance remained teetering on the edge, where fate waited with bated breath, open to the possibility of hope born from love. As the dust settled from the confrontation, the tension in the air began to lift, replaced by a cautious, yet palpable shift. Rian's outstretched hand trembled, hovering between defiance and a tentative acceptance. The murmurs among the soldiers intensified, divided between long-held loyalty and the burgeoning realization that change might be possible. Ilara's heart raced. This is our moment, she urged softly, her eyes shining with hope as she watched Rian grapple with the gravity of his choices. Would he embrace the opportunity to forge a new path, or retreat to the shadows of hatred? Cora stepped closer, her luminescence shimmering. You possess the spark of a leader, Rian. It takes strength to change, but true strength lies not in domination but in love and unity. A heavy silence engulfed the gathering as Rian struggled with the weight of the decision before him. In that pivotal moment, the collective breaths of the crowd hung in the air like an agonizing melody. Ilara Cora, Rian finally breathed, lowering his hand as if surrendering to the idea. You may speak of unity, but how can I convince those who have known only the darkness? The suffering they've endured is deep. The truth is that we are all sufferers in this war, Rian, Ilara replied, her voice steady. But we cannot forge our future with the scars of the past. We must learn to heal together. Show your people what compassion looks like, and together we can begin to rewrite our story. One of the remaining soldiers stepped forward, his brow furrowed in contemplation. Is it possible, Captain? Can we trust them? In the hushed atmosphere, a churning sea of emotions unfurled. Fear, uncertainty, hope. It was as if the world held its breath, waiting for the catalyst that could shatter the centuries of animosity. Rian turned to address his troops, the gravity of leadership settling upon him. It is time we learn that strength can be found in not wielding a weapon, but in understanding. How often have we fed our hatred while neglecting the powerful bond of existence? Ilara felt an overwhelming tide of emotions wash over her. Hope surged within her heart as she grasped Cora's hand tighter, anchoring them in the storm of change. Let us move among our people. Let us show them the beauty of coexistence, Rian continued, his voice steadying. Let us gather together, both human and ethery, so we may witness the truth of our intentions. Applause broke the tension, murmurs of encouragement rising among the soldiers as they turned to face the world anew. A fire ignited, casting shadows that danced against the echoes of history. As day turned to dusk, the gathering of humans and ethery took shape. The once segregated factions shared their stories, intermingling vibrant cultures. Ilara and Cora walked amongst the crowd, embracing the bonds that had begun to form in the spirit of hope. Together, they weren't just individual warriors. They were allies committed to a shared destiny. Days turned into weeks as slow progress marked the landscape. New alliances forged in the fires of understanding. The song of the ethery blended with the hum of humanity, creating a harmonious tune that whispered of unity, acceptance, and love. But the costs were still there. Disgruntled factions harbored shadows of resistance, whispered doubts planting seeds of discord. One evening, as Alara and Korra sat by the newly formed gathering place on the coast, they watched the sun sink into the horizon, tinged with vivid shades of purple and gold. "Do you think they will accept us?" Korra asked softly, a flicker of worry crossing her features. Alara turned, cupping Korra's cheek, feeling the warmth of her glow against her skin. "We cannot do this for them. We must act under the principles of love, even if faced with doubt. We stand as examples of what coexistence can bring. A single act of kindness can reverberate louder than a lifetime of hatred." Korra nodded, yet uncertainty still lingered in her eyes. "But the past may shatter our future." A rustle came from the shadows, and the figure of Captain Rian emerged, tension lacing his features. "I've gathered news. There are still factions beyond the coast that refuse to accept our union. They're rallying against us." Alara inhaled sharply, the weight of reality pressing against her chest. "But we can't hide. We must meet this resistance head-on. If we stand together, our unified strength will silence their hatred." Rian took a deep breath, a look of respect growing in his eyes. "I agree. We need to prepare for what may come while continuing to gather our allies." He studied both women, seeing in them the fire that could lead change. "Together we will take a stand." With renewed determination, Alara and Korra stepped into the gathering twilight, ready to face the storms challenging their newfound hope. Resilience ignited like wildfires through their veins, burning brighter than the shadows that clung to the edges of their unity. As they prepared to confront the danger inevitably looming on the horizon, one thing remained steadfast. The warmth of their connection held the promise of salvation, both for themselves and for the future they dared to build together. The air was thick with uncertainty as Alara and Korra stood at the forefront of an expansive gathering on the coast. Their people were united under a single banner for the first time. The moon hung high, casting silver light upon the assembly, illuminating the vibrant hope woven into the fabric of the night. Rian stood beside Alara and Korra, the trio symbolizing a bond that shattered barriers and prejudices. As the murmurs swelled through the crowd, the tension hung heavy, but Alara's heart swelled with resolve. They were poised to challenge the remaining factions who resisted unity, insisting on playing the roles of ancient enemies instead of newfound allies. "Tonight, we gather not as humans, nor as ethery, but as one." Rian addressed the assembly, voice steady and filled with conviction. "We have the power to redefine our existence. We must embrace our differences and create a world free from the horrors of our past." Alara searched the faces within the crowd, seeing the clash of hope mixed with unwavering fear. She stepped forward, pulse racing with anticipation, and let her heart guide her words. "We stand on the precipice of change. It is our time to rise above the chains of fear that bind us. Each of you has the power to rewrite our story through acts of kindness and understanding." Korra resumed her place next to Alara, her luminescent glow shimmering brighter than ever, their connection silently bridging the gap between their worlds. "Let us not measure ourselves by the boundaries we've created, but by the love we hold. It is through courage that we leap into the unknown, trusting one another to catch us." Applause erupted, mixed with shouts of agreement, yet lingering whispers of dissent still lingered. They stood as pillars against the storms that threatened the fragile harmony they nurtured. As the night wore on, Alara and Korra shared their stories, fostering empathy within their listeners, cracking the wall of fear brick by brick. A new dawn was upon them, a chance for growth that transcended days past. But as their newfound unity flourished, they knew challenges lay ahead. Dissenting voices would rise against their progress, yet Alara and Korra stood unwavering. The resolve fortified by their connection became a beacon of hope, sparking a movement dedicated to understanding rather than conflict. Weeks turned into months as they weathered the storms, witnessing relationships blossom and entwine. The nights of fear gave way to celebrations of life, cultures melding together in vibrant displays that heralded a new era for both races. At dawn one morning, Alara and Korra stood atop the cliff where they had once been forced apart, a place of despair transformed into a sanctuary of hope. The view stretched before them, the ocean glistening under the sun, and their hearts swelled with gratitude for the journey they had shared. "There's so much beauty in what we've forged," Alara mused, intertwining her fingers with Korra's. Korra smiled, her essence blending with the sun's warm glow. "We have faced darkness, and together we illuminated the world. The path forward will be challenging, but my heart is full knowing you will stand beside me." Alara nodded, warmth radiating through her as she envisioned a future, filled with shared experiences, understanding, and love. Together, they had rewritten history and forged a future, a world anew, painted in the vibrant colors of hope, patience, and unity. As they gazed out into the horizon, their fingers twined as one, Alara understood. They were no longer chained to the past. They were free to create the story that awaited them, hand in hand, as allies and lovers. The promise of a harmonious existence shimmered on the distant shores of possibility as a new chapter beckoned, a tale of two races finally intertwined, thriving through courage and love. And thus, with hearts ablaze, they stepped forward, ready to embrace their bright tomorrow.